Well, I'm going to do something a little different. It may seem odd or even silly, but it's something I'm doing to just help solve a problem, at least potential problem. The problem being having AR-15s in multiple calibers. ARs that use standard Stanag mags with different calibers like 223 and 300 blackout, as we're looking at here. That has different dangers associated with it if you put the wrong magazine in the wrong one, because the magazine will go in and the round will usually chamber, and depending on which direction you make the mistake, the results can be either annoying or catastrophic. In the past, I've avoided or helped mitigate that risk simply by using the standard GI 30 round mags in the 223 versions here, and then in a 300 using nothing but the Lancers. Plus, my only 300 blackout AR for a while now has been a pistol, not a rifle, so that also helped differentiate and visually give a cue as to which one was which. But now with the ATF brace rule being in effect and having no idea when it might be reversed or whether it'll be reversed, rather than use the blackout as a pistol with just a buffer tube and no brace at all, I've gone ahead and taken the easy way out of putting my spare 300 blackout upper on the pistol. Totally legal. In fact, I even left the brace on it. You can see there, instead of putting a stock on it. So to address this issue and to make it very, very distinct when you have one in your hand, whether it's the 5.56 or the 300 blackout, I'm going to paint the 300. I have never painted an AR before. I know that's the in thing to do nowadays. All the cool kids are doing it. Even though I'm a long ways from cool and haven't been a kid since the 70s. But I just don't want to give up the 300 blackout, so I'm going to run with it like this and see how it goes. So the upper, the lower, as you see there, plus the Lancer magazines, plus the pistol upper, which is removed and separated now, so there's no constructive intent worries there. I'm going to paint them all, and that way, if you got a black gun in your hand, you know it's the 223 5.56. If you got the painted gun and painted mags, you know they go together, and that's the 300 blackout. There's several reasons for doing it, but just to assuage my OCD worries about getting them crossed, putting the wrong magazine in the wrong gun, that's the whole reason for this painting. And I'll try and give you a step-by-step as we do it. Don't laugh at me too hard. I have never painted a rifle before. Again, I know it's what the cool kids do, but it's new territory for me. So, appreciate it, and we will see how it goes from here. Okay, got him hung up and cleaned. One thing I didn't mention, but I did do, is I degreased him really well, just to make things stick a little better. And I'm starting with a little red. If you can see it there, already did that. And the reason for that will be explained later. Trial on khaki. And you can see I do have paper towel stuck in the magazine well, so no worries about there. Again, this is paint. This isn't anything particularly thick or heavy. And God help us all. Let's see how this works. I also didn't mention, I do have obviously things matched off that need to be: the optics, the controls for the optics, the adjustment knob, the lens of the light, even the forward assist, just to keep everything moving smoothly. And little things like a little note there under that piece of tape that says, that is a reminder that a click is a half-inch MOA. I'm sorry, half MOA. Just so I don't have to try and remember things. Up here, this is the barrel markings pointing out, yes, it's 300 blackout and it's a 1 in 8 twist. So just anything that might need future reference. Also, on the other side, I masked off the serial number. I don't want to have any worries about quote-unquote defacing or blocking a serial number. So do one really light coat here. Let them set for a little bit. Nothing real heavy. I don't want anything running and getting droopy and gloopy, because that would be funky. So let's let him settle a bit, and I'll come back and do the other colors along with a little, not really texture, but patterns, I guess you'd call it, to it. Okay, the second coat up, a little darker. This is genuine Ace Hardware Premium chocolate brown. It's what I had on hand, so that's what we're using. And as far as pattern, I looked at different options online and stuff, and I don't want snake skin and I don't want tiger stripe, but I don't want to just paint it brown. So I'm going to try something a little different. Some native foliage, some leaves, get out there, right? That I pulled off here in the yard. And we will see how that looks. I apologize for the shadow, but that's just where the sun is in relation to my hanging post, and there's not a whole lot I can do about that. So let's go with that there. That's a whole lot of nothing. Need something smaller, probably. The nice thing about this is, if I mess it up, do it over. Not a lot of real investment here. An absolute worst case, one of my sons does hydro dipping, so I bet I could impose on him to fix anything I too tragically mess up. One thing I do plan to do is go over the top with a dark color, just to cut down sunlight glare, just as you would on a pistol or a shotgun rib or something. You don't want light colors up there, you want something dark. So I think I'll do that with this one. This is the darkest paint I have that I'm using on this chocolate brown here. So I guess I'll go ahead and do that with this guy. Basically, you don't want sunlight reflecting off here up into your optic, into your sights, that kind of thing. So I'll hit them real quick. The top rail, everything on the top. It's also a pattern you tend to see in nature if you look at a lot of non-domesticated mammals, whether they're prey or predator. You'll see dark fur on the top and a lighter fur on the bottom. I guess the evolutionary reason for that, the natural reason for that, is it soaks up some of the sunlight coming down on them, which reduces its signature. Obviously, you don't want reflection. And on the lighter side, on the bottom, the belly hair will tend to, or should tend to, increase or make the most of whatever light is available at the bottom of the animal to minimize shadow, again reducing its visible signature. That's kind of a off-the-wall esoteric way to look at it, but if you look at a lot of animals, they really do follow that pattern, whether it's a deer, a jaguar, whatever. It's just interesting. So we'll go with the top dark here. I think we're good. So let this dry, and then I'll come back with a greenish tint with some different leaves and one last coat and see where we end up. Going for the third coat here. This is, they call it the camouflage series, just green, army green. I don't know why they can't say olive drab, but bless their hearts. And just some weeds I just picked up out of the yard, trying to come up with some kind of pattern. So let's just see what happens here. I'm actually okay with that. I'm not looking for a particular pattern. I'm just looking for a kind of a mottled appearance. I think I might just live with that. Not exactly what I was envisioning, but worth what I paid for it. Okay, we'll let them hang there and dry, and then probably tomorrow, the sun's getting pretty low, maybe tomorrow I'll get the magazines painted up. They should go quicker than this, and we'll see how he turns out. As far as painting the magazines, most of my Lancer mags are the translucent ones, and I don't want to completely lose that function. I want to be able to see how many rounds are in it. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the narrow tape and masking off the front edge. So this will all be opaque, the sides and the back, but the front will still be transparent, so you can see in there. And then also using the wide tape to tape up the top section where it goes in the mag well. And I'll get a bunch of these done. I probably won't do all of them at first, but I'll get a bunch of them done. And I'll just do one color on them. I don't need to go crazy on that stuff. I'll do either the tan or the green, one or the other on those. Get a bunch of them taped up. The rocks are for when the tape comes around the top. Put a rock inside the flap of the tape, and that way they can hang on the line a little easier. It has some support up there instead of just a thin, smooth piece of tape. It'll have that little lump underneath the tape and give the clip something to grab onto. And I'll show you what I'm talking about when I get a few of them hanging and painted, and we'll go from there. Well, these are the magazines that I'm painting, or painted at least the first coat. I may or may not do a second coat. Hanging up here, and underneath the binder clip here is where I was talking about the little pebble being, just to give the binder clip something to hang on to so they don't fall out. Mostly 30 rounders. I did a few, I guess 3 20s and even one 10, just out of curiosity, but the 10 rounder, there's not much there to get paint. It's masked off from about here up. So there won't be much there, but I'm trying to keep them as uniform as I can, just to create somewhat of a hard and fast rule of the 300 blackout is the non-black stuff. Basically, it's all the green and or tan stuff. So I'll let these finish drying, maybe do another coat, and we'll see how well they turn out. Well, I got some of the magazines taped up and painted, and they're hanging drying right now. But as far as the rifle itself, I can show you how it came out. I masked off, I showed you most things. I don't think I mentioned this earlier. I masked off the elastic part of the brace just to not mess up the elastic or the Velcro. But the other things, the lenses obviously, and the controls on the optic. So you've still got the indication of up, down, left, right. And, oh, didn't uncover that piece of tape. There you go. And as well as the fact that the little note there that one click is a half MOA. The lens on the light and the marking on the barrel, the fact that it is blackout and a 1 1/8 twist. The red paint that I talked about initially, the reason for that was underneath the safety, unless I wanted to paint it, move the safety, paint it again, it was going to end up black. So if I'm going to paint it, I figured I'd try and do something potentially useful and, if nothing else, just unique. But on the safety, the first thing I did was I painted this whole little thing red on both sides. So when you flip the safety off, you get a red indicator like you do on a lot of guns that now it's in fire mode, now it's safe mode. There's safe. Kind of pointless and silly, but it's either going to be left black or painted twice anyway. So I figured if I'm going to paint it twice, may as well paint it twice to something that means something. And I got lucky on the sights. I mentioned I forgot to tape off the sights, but they say Lord watches after dingbats. So because of the way they pop up, the side of the sight that you're looking at is the side that was down and didn't get any paint on them. So they are still black on the backside. So I got lucky on that regard. Everything seems to work fine. Everything moves freely. The light still works, no issues. One thing I did when I painted it, the light, I specifically left the throw lever in the infrared mode. That way when you put it in normal white light mode, you've got the white light indicator there, which is where it's used 99% of the time, probably, or close to it. So anyway, that's the finished coloring on the gun. I'll get the magazines a little time to dry here, and we'll see how they come out. Well, I tell you, there's something to be said for living in the country. Come out to check and see if your paint is dry on your AR magazines. And there's the horses just feeding peacefully in the background. Country life is pretty darn cool. Okay, well, the magazines are dry. And let's take a look at how they turned out. This is how they start out. Translucent smoke. This is the after. The green, with the exception of the translucent remaining on the front. So when they're loaded, you can still count the number of rounds inside the magazine there. I would have rather used the tan paint instead of the green for that, but the tan I didn't have a full can of. The green I bought specifically for this, but the tan was a partial can, and I wasn't sure I'd have enough to do all the magazines because I still have a bunch left to do. The 20 rounder, not a whole lot there to paint, but same kind of thing, still clear on the front. And the 10, really I just did him just as a way of signifying that he's part of the same tribe, the same group of equipment, basically. So, I think that'll do it. It came out okay. So there we go. That's the finished product. The 300 blackout at the top, and all the magazines to be associated with it are visually distinct from the 5.56s. And hopefully this will prevent any dangerous errors from happening if someone gets lax. Anyway, appreciate it.